And yeah, thanks so much for taking the time to come and hang out with us and learn a little bit more about late pledges. I'm Ellie. I'm a lead product manager here at Kickstarter, and myself and a few of my colleagues have been working pretty hard over the past few months to bring late pledges to life. And yeah, I'm pretty excited to talk to you all about it. So we have a pretty quick agenda so that we can spend a lot of time discussing with one another, but I'll share why we decided to build this feature. We'll have a quick demo. I've got some top tips for when you set up late pledges and just some things to keep in mind when you're using them. And then, as Kay mentioned, we'll have lots of time for questions and discussion at the end. Okay. So what are late pledges? A pretty nice title for them. They kind of do what they say on the tin. They allow backers to pledge late to your project after your deadline has been met. This is the second most requested feature from creators in a recent survey that we ran, and the ability to have more backers pledge their project after the campaign deadline. It's also a pretty common gripe for backers as well. They've told us countless times they find a project that they think is really interesting, they land on it, and then they find out that it has ended, so they can no longer be a part of it. Instead, they have to go to another platform, try find a way to pledge for it, get lost along the way with logins, etc. So this is something that we've been looking to solve for. And the first request on that survey, don't worry, we're also working on that one as well. So this is a very generic graph for artistic representation only. This is kind of how Kickstarter campaigns tend to go. There's a ton of buzz and pledges at the launch of the campaign where ad dollars have been spent, backers who have been watching your pre-launch pages are now excitedly pledging towards your rewards. Then, things kind of tail off in the middle of the campaign and it slows down a little bit. And then it ramps back up towards the end of the campaign as well, with people clicking on reminder emails, any ads, your email lists, all rushing to pledge to those rewards before the deadline. At the campaign deadline, creators have also shared, the rush to get a spotlight page spun up, trying to get all of that linking in place and direct potential backers to that other place that they can continue to be a part of it, all at the end of the project. And that is pretty stressful, time consuming, and in some cases pretty expensive as well. And just wondering how much money they could have made in that time and maybe missed out on through like conversion drop-offs, etc. All at a point that we think should be kind of full of celebration, like you did it. So for backers, that's also, like I say, pretty annoying. Crowdfunding typically has that very hard cutoff where that deadline is, and you can imagine, get to my inbox and I'm a bit behind, which is pretty typical for me, to be honest. And I find a project that I was watching has then, met its deadline and I can't pledge to it. I land on it, see it's ended, feel pretty bummed about it, and either look for something that's similar or I leave. But imagine if I could land on that project, see that it had successfully funded, and be able to choose from rewards that are still available and pledge to it as a part, almost as if I wasn't late in the first place. So that's the experience that's now going to be live to all creators for you to enable for your backers. So before we have a quick demo of the creator experience, just wanted to give you a little bit of context as to how we got here, because it's all based on creator feedback, wants and needs, really. So after our survey, we spent time with about a dozen creators, understanding their ranging perspectives on how this feature should work. We conducted some more research through usability tests to make sure that this was kind of working in the way that we hoped and expected. And then we rolled out a beta from April through May, taking in creator and backer feedback before we rolled this out to all creators last week. So I'm going to swap and we're going to do a project together live. So I'm going to go ahead and start a project. Let's make an art project, conceptual art today. I'm in the US. I know the rules. And when I go to the basics tab and I scroll down to the campaign duration, you'll see this new section here, introducing late pledges. So no, I don't want to enable late pledges as on by default, because obviously there are big implications for you as creators if you do choose to do this. You have to fulfill those rewards. So I'm going to go ahead and say, yes, I want to enable late pledges. Backers will be able to pledge for rewards configured to be available beyond the campaign deadline. you'll configure rewards to be available for late pledges when creating them. So this is great. We're going to do that together. So I'm going to save this. Oh, classic. I always miss a title. Let's go. My very nice project. Lovely. Oh, I'm already using that one. Obviously, my very nice project part 2. There we go. Told you, Kay, I love a live demo. Okay, now rewards. So as I can see, there are currently 0 reward tiers available for late pledges. So let's make one. Nice. Reward. So the first thing you'll notice is there is a difference in the pricing. So we have the pledge amount and we also have a late pledge amount. And there is a reason for this. When we spoke to creators, a lot of people had spoken through wanting to alter the price for the late pledge amount, either because, you know, trying to incentivize through the crowdfunding campaign, that is where backers get kind of like an early bird deal, continuing that through. And most creators were explaining just increasing their prices by 10% to kind of keep that incentivization going for the crowdfunding phase. So we have a little tooltip here that just explains that. And what we do is we put in a placeholder. So we add 10% and we round it up to the nearest dollar just for like a nice, clean, easy number. But you have to input this here. So I'm going to say, yep, I will increase this to $2 for that late pledge amount. Again, that is totally up to you. I'll add a new item. And we will go through and we will do some of these that I know it will tell me off for. Good. Another part of this that I will get to in the top tips is if you aren't already using quantities on your rewards, this is a great place to do that. A lot of creators, as I'm sure you've experienced, have either minimum production runs or print runs, things like that, where like you already know how many of these you're going to make or could make. So if we have a limited number here, 100 for example, this will continue through that phase and I don't have to do anything. As long as there are 100 available, when those 100 have been claimed, we're all good. That reward will end. When we look at the section below where it has a start and end, you can see this configure late pledges banner. So I want this reward to be available when I start my project, and I want it to be available until I decide to end it. So in this case, I would click on when I manually end this reward's availability. So that is assuming that I will come back and I will end late pledges for this reward or a handful of rewards when I'm ready to start my fulfillment. We can also have this start when my campaign ends. So this could be a late pledge exclusive reward. And as soon as that deadline hits, this reward would become available. It wouldn't be shown to potential backers through the crowdfunding phase, only when it is ready and available for pledging. So in this case, I can start it when my campaign ends, and I want to come back and end it manually. We also have the options of custom date and time, as you're probably familiar with today, and I can pick a time and date when I want it to be available, either midway through the campaign or up until the end of it. It can't be set into the future unless you have another reward that's already available on the campaign when that deadline is there, because we need to have some consistency for backers when they land on it, for you to then make some of that money that we spoke about just at the end of your deadline. But that is an option that you have as well. So for this, I will say when my campaign launches and when I end it manually. I'm going to save the reward. Nice. Now I can see that I have one reward tier currently available for late pledging, and I can also see here that it is enabled. When my project moves into a live state, I will see that this is still here, enabled, ready. And then when I move into that late pledge state, this will all kind of look and feel as similar as it does today, but there will be a couple of additions that I can't quite show you in this demo. So there will be a button up here where you can end all rewards, just so you can do it from one and it's nice and easy. And it will just say that you have late pledges active. That's it. So you can end them all as you want to. And you can also end them all individually if you choose. Okay, So there are a couple other pieces to this that, again, I can't show you necessarily live screens just due to personal information, but I can show you in a couple of design mockups. So as you move into that late pledge phase and you start having backers pledge to those late pledge rewards, they will all be a part of your backer report. There's one change that we made. Instead of the notes column in the backer report, it now has pledged, where you can see the pledge date. Something we will be looking to add soon is a filter next to these ones that you see here. So you can filter down by late pledge backers themselves, and you can filter it in that way. You also have payouts, and we'll dig into this more in just a moment, but you will be paid out on each of your late pledge phases every 7 days, and you'll have a hub for these. So every successful payout will be listed in a payout screen. And when you click into those, you'll have information such as how much you were paid and the breakdown of any fees and then the total payment that you received. You'll also be able to download this invoice, so you can just keep a record of them, but they will all be accessible through that payout screen that we just looked at here. Payouts. And this is quite tiny, but I'll explain it to you. So you have your crowdfunding campaign window, and then 14 days after that, we will pay you out on those crowdfunding funds. Then we pay you every 7 days for any late pledges that you have. They will be done every 7 days, and there's about a 3-day offset just so we can let funds settle, and then you can get that payout in one go. And late pledges kind of follow the same fees that we have through crowdfunding. So a 5% platform fee and around a 3.5% processing fee as well on there. So a couple details that we kind of touched on, but I wanted to just call out. So you must have late pledges enabled on the basics tab and at least one reward configured in that flow that we just looked at by the end of your campaign, so by that deadline, for it then to be active for backers. You can decide how long you run late pledges for, but you must end them prior to fulfilling rewards to your backers. And we also recommend that you end late pledges prior to setting up any third-party pledge managers, as certain tools only have one-way integrations with Kickstarter data, so they won't be collecting backer information on a rolling basis and then presenting themselves in your third-party pledge managers through that late pledge period. So to avoid any gaps in data or avoid you having to email back and forth with your pledge managers support teams, we just recommend ending late pledges prior to you setting that up. Okay, now how does this look to a potential backer? Say that as this feature works really for net new backers who have not yet pledged to your project. And this will be a very quick demo. And just note that this is available on web, desktop and mobile, as well as our iOS and Android apps as well. So let's have a look at a project together. I pulled one up, this one, which is very cute. All looks rather familiar. There is this banner at the top of the page that says that the campaign was successfully funded on its deadline date, but you can still pledge for available rewards. You can see we have the Back This Project button here. As I scroll down, you can see that the campaign has ended, but I can still see in the sidebar that there are rewards available, and I can also browse those pretty easily from the rewards tab. So there are 2 rewards that I can pledge to. So let's go for this one. Great. If this project had add-ons configured, which also are available for late pledging and being available through this period, we will be able to add them on here. And I can click continue and go forth. I'm not going to do that because I'm not going to share my card details with you all, but all very normal as you would expect. All of this, again, is just all very easy and familiar for backers. So they don't have to go to another tool, create a new login, understand a new flow or any different wording that a different platform has. So this is just very seamless for them and seamless for you all as well. So let's go back once more to this little presentation. We're nearly at the end, I promise. And so some top tips that we've already, again, covered in some part, but just summarizing here. So when you are offering rewards to your backers through late pledges, consider increasing that cost just a little bit higher. And when backers become more and more familiar with this feature, it's really going to incentivize them to pledge during your crowdfunding campaign and make sure that you meet your goal, as opposed to just knowing that they could come back a little bit later. We also recommend setting up late pledges as you're building your campaign. That's all within the same interface as we just saw, and you can make tweaks to the availability as you go, but it can just lighten the load in terms of the tasks that you have to do and, things that are on your plate when it's already a busy period. You can just do it through a reward setup. It's not too much extra to add. And the other thing is, just as we mentioned as we were going through it, think about using reward quantities to manage the late pledge availability. As we spoke about, in some cases, you might already know the quantities that you have through minimums or print runs, and you can use that here to control the availability and not have to worry about coming back and checking on how many people have pledged to that reward. You can just use that as the cutoff point to end late pledges. All right, and that is it from me and all of my talking and clicking through different tabs, but I'm excited to see the questions that you might have in the chat. And yeah, let's talk about it.
Thanks so much, Ellie. That was really, really great and just so illuminating. Thank you for taking us through all that. We've got some questions here. The first one is there a benefit to shortening the length of the initial project deadline and using late pledges instead of a full, well, they've said 60-day campaign, but do you think there's any benefit to that?
I mean, not that we've seen so far in the data, but knowing obviously the data, we've only had this for a small pool of creators to start and only had this live to everyone for a week or so. So nothing that we've seen that I could give you kind of like this is the best time frame to do it. And that seems also very, very specific to you as creators, the audiences that you've had, and maybe some of the experiences that you've had in the past. What I can tell you is from late pledges, as we kind of described, so many people coming at the end of your campaign and at your deadline, we see a lot of pledges coming in that first 48 hours or so. And then, similarly to the graph that we were looking at for the whole campaign, it tails off a little bit because marketing efforts or people have seen the emails, and that tends to tail off a little. There are cases where you would continue to drive more traffic to those project pages, but that is, again, totally up to you. And that's kind of really what we've seen so far.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. Thanks, Ellie. Michael has asked if it's ever possible to add this onto campaigns that have previously finished. If your campaign's already finished, can you add this feature now?
Not right now, you can't, no. The intentionality behind this feature is, again, just to make sure that any either marketing spend that you've had in place or any emails that we've sent on your behalf to try and get some of these pledges just before your deadline are really caught. If we were looking at adding that retroactively, there probably wouldn't be too much traffic landing on those pages anyway, and that would probably need a different product solution for that, offering different rewards that you have outside of the context of the campaign. So that's not something we've added for this one.
That's great, thank you. And then can you know how there's the reward where it's just pledged because you believe in the project? Is that something that you can continue to have up?
Yes, that will continue as long as you have late pledges enabled. So that won't work on its own. You still need to have a reward configured, but as long as you have one reward that is available for late pledges, that will also be there, and you can get those reward-free pledges too.
And creators can still add rewards that are like that. They have a similar tone. It's like give $5 because you believe in us, and it's a big thank you from the team. Sort of non-deliverable rewards, if you will.
Right, exactly. And again, as long as you have one reward available at the deadline, you can add new rewards as you go as well. So if you were like, cool, there's actually something else that we were going to offer anyway, or something else that we just want to add as a part of this, as long as you have that one reward available so the page is active, you can add new rewards through the phase as well.
That's great. I'm just reading through all these questions now. Do you think that this will have any impact on the sort of, oh, it's finishing, the campaign's almost over, you know, that sort of exciting habits that backers have built up over the years? Do you think will have any impact on that?
Yeah, I have spent a lot of time thinking about this part and also speaking to a lot of different creators about this, because this is something that's really important to me, and I'm sure all of you as well, which is like getting the backers pledging through the crowdfunding phase where it's most important for you. And that's why we added in the late pledge amounts for increasing that reward tier cost. So when more backers become familiar with it, they know, again, like through the crowdfunding phase, that's when they will either get the earliest of early bird rewards or still the lower reward cost than they would after the fact. So that's why we added in that piece. And there is also just like some, again, it's such early days for this that we're going to keep an eye on the data, but this is also something that creators have had the ability to do with backers anyway. It's just happening on whatever other website. So whether it's like going to In Demand or using BackerKit, for example, backers are still able to do that today, but it's just a bit more of a headache where they have to go somewhere else. There's more clicks, there's more logins, there's just more opportunity for drop off, which we don't want for you. Like, we want to make sure that you get as many pledges so that you can work on your projects with as many people as possible.
I think that makes sense. Jocelyn's asked, will there be a section on the site or app showing what projects are in late pledges?
We are exploring that right now, yes. Again, I was a little nervous about this one at first and had spent, again, quite a lot of time talking with teammates about how we would handle this, because again, the focus really, we want to be on those live projects. Because you can imagine you are running your project and you're on like day 2 and you see that there are late pledges of projects that have already met their goal being promoted on different surfaces. So we're looking at ways that we can kind of balance that nicely, where live projects that we want backers' eyes on are prioritized, but there is still an easy way to get to and see late pledge projects as well.
Thanks, Ellie. When does Kickstarter collect payments from backers for late pledges? Are any cancellations allowed after a pledge?
Great question. I really should have called that one out.
Really good.
For backers, like, because I totally missed that payout or like the payment summary screen. Backers will be charged on session. So unlike the crowdfunding campaign where we see that card, but we don't charge them until the deadline, for late pledges, they're charged on that same session. So I go through, enter my card details, click pledge, then the funds will be taken from me. Again, we kind of wait until we have that 7 days worth of pledges before we pay them out to you. But that's when they will be charged. They can't cancel, and this would work in similar ways today, where the backer would have to reach out to you as a creator to either make any modifications or get a refund on certain pieces. But that would work as it does today, but they will just be charged at the point of pledge.
That's great. There's a kind of side question to that I'm just going to jump down to around about if your existing backers then go on to change the reward tier during the late pledge stage, will this price hike affect them? But I think you kind of answered that in that.
Yeah, any backers that are yours through crowdfunding, again, will work in the same way. They can manage their pledge through the crowdfunding phase. They can do all of that up until your deadline, which again is when we charge them, and then you are paid on that. For late pledge backers, they are just charged on session for any price adjustments that you have. And then they can continue to, obviously, like, both of those groups of backers will make any adjustments to their reward tier as they would with you normally today after your deadline has been met.
That's great. And then obviously Is this available for projects that haven't hit their original target?
Unfortunately not. This is for successful projects only.
And is the Kickstarter fee for late pledges the same as during the campaign?
Yes. 5% fee, and then there's that, like I say, around 3.5% processing fees as well.
That's great. Loads of questions for you, Ellie. I'll just keep them coming.
Just rattle through them. I love it.
If a campaign is doing well with late pledges, will the Kickstarter popularity work for the campaigns? I'm assuming that's kind of an algorithm question. When a campaign is set for late pledges, can the campaign page and video be added or edited after the main campaign?
Yes. So as long as you have late pledges enabled, you can still edit your story, you can still edit the video as you would do today. Build remains open, so you can make some of those changes. The way I've been thinking about it, and kind of like my unofficial internal slogan for this, is just your project for longer. So all of the logic that you already know and the way in which it works, as long as you have a late pledge enabled, it will continue to work like that, really. So that's like the way I've been framing it, and I hope that helps maybe with some of the thinking on that.
And well, if all of a sudden and during their late pledge phase they have tons of new backers, will that start to resurface that campaign throughout the site?
So it will technically come up as ended right now. So if you search for a project that has late pledges enabled, it will appear as ended. And like I said, we're going to add in like a new project card state so that you can see that late pledges are enabled for it. So you can, if I'm searching for your project by name, I can see that I can still be a part of it. With that, it isn't really going to be affected by popularity scores right now. We are making a couple changes to the way in which our algorithm works. So this is a little up in the air, but it will, again, just like kind of appear as an ended project for right now.
Great, thank you. I'm reading this one. It says technical question at the start, and it's immediately put me off because it's like it's going to be difficult. I'm not going to read it. Right. When creating a pledge that we want active during the campaign and available for late pledge, can you walk through what selections we should make? The language in the pledge creation regarding this seems confusing.
Let's see. When creating a pledge that we want active during the campaign and available for late pledging, can you walk me through the selections we should make? Should we take a look together?
Yeah, I think that might be really helpful.
Okay. Let me share my screen. And also, Gary, feel free to stop me if I'm not answering.
Yes,
anything.
if you want to jump in, feel free.
Appreciate that. Thank you.
So you want a reward to be available during the campaign and through late pledging. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's right.
Great. So here is our test reward. And what you will be able to do is, I'll select my cool new item again. You will pick it either for when your campaign launches, or, I mean, I guess that is the one in your case. You could set a custom date and time as well. But when my campaign launches and when I manually end this rewards availability would be the selections that I would make. So then there is the reward that will be available to backers through the crowdfunding phase and into late pledges. And I have the control of when I end that, which would be when I'm ready to fulfill.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense. And then if we set the price to be the same, we don't have to get a different number in the beginning, we just leave it blank.
No, you can leave it blank. And I actually think this might throw up an error. So you might just have to put in the same one, just like to confirm it. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, appreciate it.
Yeah, of course. No.
Yeah,
Just
I was on mute. Thank you. Do you have thoughts on how this will impact surveys? I think that's a really interesting question. You mentioned waiting on third-party services linking until late pledging is complete, but what about Kickstarter surveys? Do we need to wait on those as well? Can we resend them? Is it possible to send a separate survey to late pledgers versus on-time pledgers?
Yeah, great question. For using Kickstarter surveys, we do ask you to end the specific reward that you're looking to send a survey for and the availability of late pledges so you can send that survey. The reason being is that we don't have a mechanism yet to be able to continually send that survey if you have already sent it once and then you have more backers that are coming in after the fact. So it's kind of like a end it, send your survey, and there are some prompts along the way. So we kind of guide you and help you through modals and then sending you to the right place to be able to do it. And that also, you know, generally speaking, is when we see fulfillment really starting to happen. And that's when we ask you to end them anyway. So it felt kind of like a natural point in time. But as we continue to work on this feature and develop based on feedback, we can explore it more.
I've got another one here. Will the price change automatically if we have a reward available through into late pledges?
So you'll need to set that late pledge amount. We don't change it automatically for you in the configuration page. But if you say have a reward that's available for $10 during the crowdfunding phase and $20 as a late pledge, pretty steep hike, but whatever. When the deadline hits, we will automatically change it to that $20 for you. So whatever you've configured in Project Build for that reward, we will handle when your deadline hits.
Great. We have someone else who's asked if you can flash up the graph again, you know, of the sort of journey, the Kickstarter journey.
Yeah. Again, that's a very, very general.
Yeah, it's loose.
Not the
It's
case
loose.
for everyone at all. And, you know, this is, again, a sweeping generalization of how we see data kind of work. It's never always this high, it's never always this low. And obviously you can just take it as illustrative purposes as intended. But something along these lines is what we either see or hear from creators as well.
Perfect, thank you.
Like a nice big question mark at the end of like, who knows what will happen, you know? Every project is different.
That's great. Does anyone else have any questions? Well, we have Ellie's brain here to question. Well, someone asked actually in the chat about where can we go for more information? And I've just dropped a link to our help centre, which has a really clear article, but also has a contact form there that you can reach out to support if you have any problems or questions that we've not answered today.
Yeah, support will be a great place to reach out to, as I am in close contact anyway with our support team, and anything that comes up from you all around this, whether it be feedback, issues, bugs maybe that you've encountered, they will let me know. And yeah, they'll be the perfect people.
Great.
Amazing.
Great. Okay, well, if we have all your questions answered, well done, Ellie.
Well, thank you all again so much. I really appreciate the questions, and I'm so excited to see you all use this, and I'm excited to hear your feedback. Yeah, I'm thrilled that we've managed to get this one out for you all.
Yeah, it's brilliant. Thank you so much, Ellie. Have a wonderful afternoon. Have a wonderful afternoon, everyone. We'll send some more links through to you and a recording of this as well, so you can have a look back if you missed anything. Thank you. Good evening.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.